if you're a Black American, you need to watch this. It is very, very important. This is not just raw truths. This is not just biblical truths. This is not just the normal history that you know, but this is a Black American woman going into deep history to review something that is very, very important. So you have a DNA of a Black America. You live in Black America as a Black person. In fact, anything, if you have anything that connects you to America, you need to watch this video as far as I'm concerned. And I want to know your honest opinion in the comment section. Credits belong to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. My name is Sonia, if you're meeting me for the first time. And I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks, and also joining my membership. And with that being said, let's roll out the clip, guys. I'll be back with commentaries. Please, credits to the owner of the videos. Okay, let's go watch.
Hello, family. I hope all is well. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope it's a lot of good energy out there for you all today. And sending you all lots of love. We're going to get into this video about the government giving back land to the Indigenous Native Indians, which is the Black Americans. All right, so let's just get started. Here we go.
Nobody told you, yet quietly, over a short span of years, nearly 3 million acres of land changed status inside the United States, not sold to corporations, not auctioned to investors, but placed back into protected ownership structures meant for native descendants. And here's the part that makes people uneasy. This land does not automatically go to anyone. If it is not claimed through the correct legal channel, it remains under federal control, administered by agencies that can later redefine how it is used. That is why the question matters, not emotionally, legally. If you are a Black American who understands your ancestry as native to this land, then this moment feels different, because identity, history, and land have finally crossed paths again, quietly, bureaucratically, and without explanation. You know it for a fact that you are the descendant of Black Native tribe, the original and first people of the United States, which means you have the whole right to claim the allocated land. So what is this land? Where did it come from? And most importantly, how can Black Americans actually claim it? In this video, let's find out.
The Black History Archives.
Over the past several years, a quiet but consequential shift has taken place in the legal geography of the United States. Without dramatic announcements or national debate, the federal land base held in trust for Native peoples expanded by nearly 3 million acres. This expansion was not the result of a single policy or administration, but rather the cumulative outcome of legislative decisions by Congress and administrative actions carried out primarily through the Department of the Interior, the federal agency responsible for overseeing Native trust lands and the government's trust obligation. These additional acres did not come from newly discovered land or from unilateral transfers. They emerged from multiple overlapping mechanisms that unfolded over time. Congressional enactments authorized specific land restoration, reversing earlier dispossession or correcting historical administrative decisions. Administrative actions within the Interior Department allowed land already under federal control to be reclassified into trust status. Land restoration returned parcels that had once been tribal land but were lost through allotment, surplus land policies, or unfulfilled sale. Land consolidation programs addressed fragmented ownership patterns created by earlier federal policies, while voluntary land buyback processes allowed individual Native landholders to sell fractional interests back into the collective tribal trust. Together, these pathways gradually reshaped the land base. Some of the land was added to tribal trust holdings, strengthening the territorial continuity of reservations. Some entered individual trust holdings, where specific Native individuals retain beneficial interests, while the federal government holds legal title. Other parcels were folded into consolidated reservation land, resolving long-standing checkerboard ownership patterns that had made coherent land management nearly impossible. When viewed in total, the scale becomes clear. The United States now holds more than 39.5 million acres in trust for tribal governments and an additional 13.3 million acres in trust for individual Native people. These figures are not symbolic. They represent one of the largest corrections of land tenure in modern American history. But to understand why this land does not function like ordinary property, and why its allocation follows such strict rules, it is necessary to understand what trust land actually is. Trust land is not private real estate. It is not land that can be freely bought, sold, mortgaged, or ceded. Instead, it exists within a legal relationship where the federal government holds title to the land, while Native tribes or individuals hold the beneficial interest. This structure protects the land from alienation and shields it from most forms of private seizure. But it also places the land within a regulated system where use and control are governed by eligibility standards, administrative oversight, and federal law. That legal framework explains why the land behaves differently from private property and why it is not automatically assigned to individuals. Because trust land exists within a federal trusteeship, it does not move through society in the same way that privately owned land does. There is no automatic inheritance in the conventional sense, no mailing of deeds, and no passive distribution. The trust relationship requires an active legal connection between the land and a recognized beneficiary, whether that beneficiary is a tribe or an individual Native person. Without that connection, land cannot simply be handed over. If no eligible individual or group steps forward through the recognized processes established by law, the land remains under federal trusteeship. In that state, it is managed administratively by the government rather than by a community that directly uses it. While this arrangement preserves the land from immediate loss, it also places it in a vulnerable position over time. Land that remains unclaimed or unused within the trust system is subject to policy shifts. Administrative priorities can change how it is leased, conserved, or restricted. Legislative amendments can reclassify its use. Regulatory rollbacks can weaken protections that once seemed permanent. In other words, the trust framework is protective, but it is not immune to political change. This is why claiming matters. Claiming does not mean taking possession in a private sense. It means activating the legal and communal relationship that gives the land purpose, protection, and continuity. Understanding this leads naturally to the next question. Who, under U.S. law, is actually permitted to activate that relationship? To engage legally with trust land, a person must be connected to a federally recognized Native tribe, an individual Native allotment lineage, or a specific tribal land consolidation or restoration process. Each of these pathways ties the claimant to a recognized legal history of land tenure and governance. Here's a reminder to please support us so we can make more videos for you by subscribing to our channel and giving the video a like. We want to build a strong community and we need your support. Let's continue now. The administrative authority responsible for managing these relationships is the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which oversees trust lands, maintains records, and conducts eligibility reviews. However, the Bureau does not independently define who belongs to a tribe. Instead, it operates within a system that respects tribal sovereignty, meaning tribes themselves retain the authority to define their own citizenship. This structure ensures that trust land remains connected to living communities rather than abstract categories, but it also means that eligibility must be established step by step through documented lineage and formal recognition. That process begins not with paperwork, but with specificity. The first requirement is tribal specificity. A claimant must identify a particular Native tribe with which they are connected. Broad racial categories or generalized claims of indigenous ancestry are not sufficient. The legal system requires a clear link to a specific political and cultural community that is recognized under federal law. This identification often begins with family knowledge passed down through generations. Oral history can provide initial direction, pointing toward a tribe, region, or historical event that anchors the search. From there, historical records become essential. Census documents allotment records, church registries, land transactions, and birth or death certificates can help trace connections that oral history alone cannot substantiate. In cases involving freedmen or Afro-Indigenous lineage, additional documentation may be required to establish how ancestors were incorporated into tribal communities and recognized within historical roles. The emphasis at this stage is not proof, but direction, pinpointing the specific tribal context in which further research can occur. Once that context is identified, the process moves from identification to verification. Eligibility under U.S. law flows through documented descent. This means establishing a direct lineage connection to an individual who appears on a recognized historic roll or allotment record. These records serve as the legal foundation for modern recognition, linking contemporary claimants to
Like,
earlier
share, and
beneficiaries
subscribe,
of
family.
treaty
Love y'all.
rights.
Bye.
Black Americans are not the indigenous people. Black Americans are not this. Black Americans are not that. I hope you have seen it in this video. I am not the one that said it too. It is not coming from Sonia. It's coming from a researcher. Let's continue this video. I'll be back with commentaries.
All right, family. Hope you're having a wonderful day. This is part 2, the continuation of about the land grab back to the Native American Indians. I couldn't get it all in one clip, so here's the rest of it. Love y'all.
Within historical roles. The emphasis at this stage is not proof, but direction, pinpointing the specific tribal context in which further research can occur. Once that context is identified, the process moves from identification to verification. Eligibility under U.S. law flows through documented descent. This means establishing a direct lineage connection to an individual who appears on a recognized historic roll or allotment record. These records serve as the legal foundation for modern recognition, linking contemporary claimants to earlier beneficiaries of treaty right, land allotment, or tribal censuses. Common sources include the Dawes Rolls, which documented individuals eligible for allotments during the allotment era, tribal-based rolls maintained by individual nations, reservation census conducted by federal agents, treaty-era documentation identifying recognized community members, and Bureau of Indian Affairs records that track trust relationships over time. The purpose of this step is to demonstrate continuity. It is not enough to show that an ancestor lived in a certain place. The lineage must connect to someone already recognized within the trust or allotment system. This connection transforms personal history into legal standing, allowing the claimant to move forward into the sphere of tribal governance rather than remaining solely within federal administration. That transition brings the process into the hands of the tribe itself. Once lineage is established, the next step is not a federal application, but a tribal one. Each federally recognized tribe is a sovereign political entity with the authority to define its own citizenship criteria. These criteria may be based on descent, blood quantum, residency, cultural participation, or combinations of factors determined by the tribe's constitution or governing document. Tribal governments review applications independently, examining documentation, lineage, and compliance with our rules. The federal government does not override these decisions, nor does it impose uniform standards across tribes. This respect for sovereignty is central to the trust system, ensuring that land and identity remain linked to self-governing communities rather than external administrators. Acceptance into a tribe does not automatically confer ownership of land, but it establishes the legal relationship necessary to engage with trust land program. At this point, recognition opens the door to participation rather than possession. Now, with recognition in place, an individual may engage with programs that govern how trust land is used and managed. These programs are designed to balance protection with practical use, allowing land to support housing, agriculture, economic development, and cultural preservation without exposing it to permanent loss. Engagement may include participation in tribal land use programs, assignment of trust land for specific purposes, or access to housing or agricultural leases. Individuals may also benefit from land consolidation initiative that restore fractionated parcels to coherent use, strengthening both community planning and individual opportunity. At this stage, land is not deeded outright. Instead, individuals gain use right, leasing opportunities, or allocations within community-based structure. These arrangements reflect the underlying philosophy of trust land as a collective and intergenerational asset rather than a commodity. Because these benefits are tied to active participation, they require ongoing engagement. Therefore, claimants must remain in good standing with our tribe, comply with land use rules, and participate in required recording or oversight processes. Eligibility documentation must be maintained and engagement must continue. If participation lapses or claims become inactive, the land remains under federal trusteeship rather than transitioning into active community use. This does not mean the land is lost, but it does mean it remains vulnerable to administrative inertia and policy shifts. Active engagement anchors the land within living systems of governance and care. This vulnerability explains why broader political dynamics matter. Trust land exists within policy space rather than absolute permanent. Federal priorities shape how land is managed, leased, and protected. Administrations that favor fossil fuel expansion, deregulation, or reduced tribal consultation can reshape the regulatory environment in ways that affect tribal land directly. Land that is actively claimed, used, and governed through tribal systems is more resilient to these shifts. Land that remains unused or ambiguously classified is more susceptible to reclassification, administrative limitation, or policy rollback. Political context, therefore, influences not only the future of the trust land as a whole, but the security of individual and tribal relationships to it. You see, the process of claiming this land is not simple, and that is not by accident. Complexity creates distance. If access were straightforward, participation would be widespread, and control would shift quickly. Instead, layers of rules, documentation, and procedures slow everything down, giving institutions time and flexibility to manage the land as they see fit, whether for leasing, extraction, or future development. What matters is remembering that this land is not abstract. It has a history and it has people connected to it. Complexity is meant to discourage movement, not deny possibility. That is why the first step matters more than perfection. The moment you begin asking questions and asserting your place in the process, the land stops being invisible. Delay benefits those already in control. Action, even imperfect action, brings the land back into conversation where it belongs. Tell us, when land exists in trust but remains unused or unclaimed, who truly benefits from that pause? The people it was meant for or the institutions managing it? If proof and documentation were the only barrier, would you be willing to do the work to uncover your lineage? In the comment section, let's have a discussion on the ancestry of Black Americans and educate each other on how this unclaimed land should be claimed. Would you like us to make more videos? If yes, please support us by subscribing to the Black History Archive and clicking the bell icon. You can check out more videos.
Memphis, Tennessee, 1906. A man walks into a bank and requests to see the vault. The tellers hesitate. He is Black in the Jim Crow South, but his name carries weight that overrides protocol. Robert Reed Church Sr. owns the building. He owns 3 others on this street. His net worth exceeds $1 million in an era when the average American earns less than $500 annually. He was born enslaved on a Mississippi steamboat. Most history textbooks mention slavery. They mention emancipation. They describe sharecropping, poverty, segregation. What they do not mention is this. Within one generation of the 13th Amendment, there were documented Black millionaires across America. Not dozens, not a statistical anomaly, but enough to form a pattern, a network, an economic infrastructure that threatened the foundational narrative of white supremacy. This part never appears in the curriculum, because acknowledging these fortunes requires confronting a question the official story cannot answer. If Black Americans could accumulate such wealth immediately after bondage, what does that reveal about every century of manufactured poverty that followed? The year is 1865. 4 million people walk out of slavery with nothing. The Freedmen's Bureau estimates that 98% of formerly enslaved individuals own no property whatsoever. Conventional history ends the story there, a permanent underclass born from centuries of stolen labor. But walk through New Orleans in 1870, and you will find Tommy LaFon, a formerly enslaved man who now owns commercial properties across 3 parishes. His real estate portfolio generates rental income exceeding $10,000 annually. By 1880, his wealth surpasses $500,000. Look north to Philadelphia. Robert Purvis, born to a formerly enslaved mother, inherits his white father's estate in 1826. By Reconstruction, his fortune exceeds $250,000. He uses it to fund Underground Railroad operations, purchasing safe houses across 3 states. Census data from 1870 identifies approximately 12 black individuals with declared assets exceeding $100,000, the equivalent of multi-million-dollar wealth today. By 1890, that number grows to 23. By 1910, the Black Business Directory for Durham, North Carolina alone lists 47 black-owned enterprises with capital investments exceeding $10,000 each.
Like, share, and
Think about what this
subscribe.
means.
Every single black Americans came from Africa. Every single one of them were deported from Africa. Every single one of them came and rooted in Africa. What happened to the Indians, black? What happened to other black Americans that were shipped from East, West, and South? What happened to the indigenous people? What happened to the people that were already in the land? What happened to the Native Americans? Let's go continue this video. I'll be back with commentaries. I'm ready for you guys this month.
Hello, family. Hope all is well. This is part 3 of this land grab story, and they just talking about how we overcame slavery, how we end up being some of the richest black people back in the maybe the early 1900s. So let's just listen and see what they're. This is gonna be a part 3. Here we go.
$10,000 each. Think about what this meant. The National Negro Business League, founded by Booker T. Washington in 1900, counts over 300 chapters representing 40,000 black business owners within 5 years. Yet when you open a standard American history textbook, this economic explosion does not exist. The narrative jumps from slavery to Jim Crow poverty, as if nothing happened in between. The official story requires their failure, because their success exposes the mechanism that came next. California, 1856. Bridget Mason walks 2,000 miles from Mississippi to Los Angeles with her Mormon slaveholder. California is a free state, but her owner plans to relocate to slaveholding Texas. Before he can cross the border, local black abolitionists petition the court. A judge frees her at age 38. 10 years later, she owns property in downtown Los Angeles, purchased for $250. By 1884, her holdings span multiple city blocks, valued at $300,000. She dies in 1891, worth nearly $500,000, leaving detailed property records, deeds, and a commercial building that still stands. Her story was taught in Los Angeles schools until the 1920s. Then it disappeared from curricula. The mechanisms behind that erasure were about to escalate into something far more deliberate. The first layer of erasure was physical. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. The Greenwood District, known as Black Wall Street, houses over 10,000 residents. The neighborhood contains 600 businesses, 21 churches, 30 grocery stores, 2 theaters, a hospital, a bank, and a 13-story hotel. Residents include J.B. Stratford, millionaire hotel owner, O.W. Gurley, wealthy landowner, and A.J. Smitherman, publisher of the Tulsa Star. In 36 hours, white mobs, aided by local law enforcement, destroy it entirely. Airplanes drop incendiary devices, the first aerial bombing of an American city. Official reports count 36 dead. Unmarked mass graves, discovered in 2020, suggest 300. Every black-owned business.
So the whole world, quit asking us why we don't own nothing. Here specifically why we don't own nothing. They know if we get our hand on some money, we're going to be rich. They know the black community very smart, and they're afraid of our wealth. They're afraid. They watch how fast we came from slavery. This is part of the story where we went from slavery to being millionaires. And it only took, 5 years. So these people are trying to stop our progression. They don't want to give us nothing because they feel like we will own the world. I think they feel like we are very prosperous. We're the one that make everybody rich. Any race, ethnicity that comes into our community they become rich. We are walking money. And they have taken advantage of that. And they have all been taught to ignore us. They feel like they don't have nothing, they don't own nothing, they ain't got no power. That's how they feel, and they want to keep us like that. And it's not just the United States, it's all these countries working together to me to hold the black foundation of Black America, Black American Indians, and the Black Israelites down. They have to. This is a colluded. They concluding all together to hold us down. And when the United States couldn't handle it by themselves no more, they went and started bringing in all these immigrants, these Africans, these Latinos, these Mexicans. And it's the Democrats, y'all. They the one is destroying America. They the one is doing nothing for us, and they the one that is with a two-headed sword to me. They fooling the black people like, if you black, vote blue. I'm not trying to tell you how to vote. You vote how you want to vote. But please look at what these people stand for. Listen to their podcast. Go listen to what they say they represent and what they're fighting for before you just hit that button. And I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. We want to know what tangibles you're going to give Foundation of Black Americans, Black American Indians, and the Israelites. Whoever sit at the table and say, hey, we'll get y'all a crime bill. We'll start some reparations going on. We'll come up with something where we can pass our checks or give our land. Tell us what y'all want and we can negotiate. Yes, we're going to make affordable housing for the foundation of Black America, the Black American Indians, and the Israelites. We're going to come up with that crime bill. We're going to stop all this brutality against y'all. We're going to work with y'all. It was always just black and white. Democrats brought all these immigrants in here. And now that is their voting base. They don't need us. They don't want to. They not fight. You know why they not fighting for us? Because if they lose all the immigrants out of America, they won't ever probably run that White House again. Because the secret is out. The Democrats are not for black Americans. Period. They say the Democrats is the one that created the KKK. This allegedly. The Democrats the one let all the immigrants in America at the border. We know that. The Democrats the one that's out here fighting to keep the immigrants in the country. I hear black Americans having problems, Foundation Black Americans, Black American Indians, Israelites having problems getting jobs in LA. Because all these immigrants is working for cheap labor, got these men in the job, and they not hiring our people. Immigrants are not good for black Americans. Long as they in this country, we are being pushed out of employment, housing, and everything, and we not having it. And the last thing they want us to get is reparation, because they feel like we gonna have the money to do what we want to do, and they afraid of how probably we may treat them. But we're not though. We're not y'all. We're not white people, Latinos, Mexicans, Africans. We not like y'all. We don't do evil for evil. Look at all the evil y'all have done to us, and we haven't hurt nobody. We haven't pew-pewed nobody. We haven't blew up no countries. We're not out there on the street beating up your children. We haven't done nothing to y'all. But roast y'all, talk to y'all, but don't get it twisted. We are warriors. Don't push us. It take a lot to wake up the sleeping giants. But when we woke, somebody got to answer. So this is how far we done came.
Is looted or burned. Property damage exceeds $30 million in modern currency. Not one white participant is prosecuted. Insurance companies refuse all claims. This was not the first. Wilmington, North Carolina, 1898. A white supremacist coup overthrows the elected biracial government. Black business owners flee with nothing. Census records show a 92% decline in black property ownership between 1900 and 1910. Rosewood, Florida.
This is why we don't own nothing, because they kept burning it down and running us out of our towns. So don't ask
By
us
1930,
Africans
official state documents list Rosewood as uninhabited land.
Go do some
The
research.
massacre is not taught in Florida schools until 1993. The pattern repeats in Ocoee, Florida, 1920, Elaine, Arkansas, 1919, East St. Louis, 1917.
Those are all
Atlanta,
the places where they kept
1906.
burning us down every time we build
Historians
back up
estimate
from
over
nothing.
50 documented incidents of mass violence, specifically targeting black economic centers between 1890 and 1930. The conservative estimate
but
of
not
destroyed
judgment
black
of
wealth
on the whole
exceeds
world.
$50
In all
billion
y'all countries
in
that
modern
oppressed
currency.
us, y'all under judgment.
But
Like,
physical
share,
destruction.
subscribe.
Come back again and tell me in the comment section that Black Americans can be deported, that Black Americans are not the indigenous people. Come back again and remind me that Black Americans are the ones that literally stole the land. Come back again in the comment section and tell me that Black Americans literally do not build the country. Yeah, they did not build it. They are just there. Oh, don't worry, they will soon be deported. Tell me again in my comment section. Honestly, ignorance has been one of the things that is killing a lot of people. Ignorance have been one of the things that is making a lot of people act somehow. See, it has gotten to that point where if I have my group of friends and we cannot discuss certain things relating to what my understanding is, honestly, I just try to cut you off because I feel like you are not updated enough. So you can't be my friend. You don't know about history. You can't be my friend. You don't know what is literally happening, even if not around the whole world, but at least some major parts of the country. Because the more I know, I'm educating you, the more you are also educating me. So if you have to be my friend, you have to be someone that we need to talk. And if we're talking, we must talk about Black Americans. See, I've studied Black American history to the point that I feel like I don't even know so much about my own history in my own country. You get that is that when I see some people act some kind of weird ways to Black Americans, probably calling them lazy, telling them that they're going to get deported, telling them that why are they sitting back? They are supposed to come to the war front. They are supposed to be there protesting. Honestly, I flame off and I pissed off a whole lot. That's why if you check this channel very well, you see that I have a lot of videos of intimidation, shaming Black Americans, and how I do my things and address such issues. See, the first thing you need to do, share this video to somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody so that they can be able to get enlightened, honestly. Because this is fact. Fact. A lot of things have been destroyed. A lot of things have been moved out of the library. A lot of things have been twisted. But in all, one thing I'm grateful about this generation right now is that we have a generation that we are ready to talk. You can't make us keep quiet. You can't make us look like we are dumb. See, gone are those days where a lot of things that were stripped off were just. So if you like, destroy all the library tools. If you like, don't teach it in schools. If you like, don't do whatever you want to do. We are still going to root it out. That's just the honest truth. And that's the spirit that Black Americans have. Imagine someone sitting down, going into deep histories to bring out all of this. You think it's easy for that person? It's because that person knows that the more I keep quiet, the more this thing is going to another level. And as at this point, Black Americans are saying, we are no longer keeping quiet. We are going to talk as far as you're concerned. And I really, really love them for that. So if you don't learn anything in today's video or in this particular video, Learn that Black Americans are the original indigenous people in America. Learn that Black Americans took their time, built America even before slavery, segregation, Jim Crow, redlining, and every single thing that transpired. Also learn that right now Black Americans have voices that a lot of people are still surprised, they are still wild about. How did they start having these voices? How did we cut these voices? How do we make them not speak? But despite all, we are still talking. Black Americans will still keep talking. Black people will still keep talking. Share this video and let me know your opinion in the comment section. Like I said, credit to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you, liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks, and also joining my membership. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. Thank you so much for staying stick and hook with me to the end of this video. And yes, guys, with that being said, with no further ado, like I always say in my videos, I'm going to be saying bye and I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye guys. I love you guys. Mwah.